was blogging about how to do business in different parts of Africa. And all these businesses I've been talking about are serious businesses. I think I was blogging about it like 3 to 4 years ago. Now I'm in another level. That time I was talking about how to do business in Africa and the opportunities that existed. Right now, I'm not going to blog about how to do business in Africa. I'm going to blog about why African American businesses are not progressing in Africa and why diasporans are not managing to keep the profit of business in Africa. One thing you need to know, the model of doing business in Africa is not in any way similar to the way of doing business in America or in Europe. Businesses in Africa requires patience. They require someone who is rough and someone who is abstractive. Abstractive, I mean, you're willing to do business even if there's no license. You understand what I mean? Because here is a hotbed of corruption in one way or the other. You have to be very, very aggressive in what you want to do. That is Africa for you, and you cannot change it. We found it that way, and we are living it that way, and we are succeeding that way. Because whoever lived that way succeeded that way, and whoever lived before me, I inherited what he did and how he did it the way he did it. So who am I to come and bring standardization and professionalism that is so extreme? It cannot work in Africa. You need to understand Africa is still evolving. In terms of infrastructure, we are still trying to catch up with the Western standards and be able to compete in the scale of multi-international levels. So, why you will not succeed is because you are impatient in Africa. If you are impatient in Africa, definitely you will have a very big problem because it's not like consumer power is there as the way it is in the West. Here, you have to be very, very, very patient if you want to succeed in business because many people are aggressive and there's competition. You have to know that you have to be patient. That is one thing. Two, don't consider standards so much. When I would prefer to come, I buy goods, and I will not mind packaging so much, unlike the way it is in the West. In Africa, you don't need to just have that seriousness, customer care, like the way it is done in the West. Why? Because societies are still trying to figure out what is what, which is which. Three, energy factor. No business can thrive when the high cost of energy is pulling it down. You need to consider where to do business in Africa because you cannot learn business and use or expect energy availability like the way you have it all the times in United States or in Europe. In Africa, you must learn to go for 2 to 3 days without power. In some cases or in some places, I'm not sure, but I believe that is the way it is. You go to a region, you find that electricity comes once a day. In some parts, it is continuous, depending on the zoning of the company that is supplying the energy. Four, you have to consider political factor. 79.9% of African regions, they are still struggling with the political stability. This one plays a very big role when it comes to making decisions on where you want to go and set up your company or set up your business. It's not something that you can just wake up and go and do. You need to evaluate these facts. And the more you keep on evaluating these facts, you need to write them down and note them down because they will affect you in one way or the other. You cannot go and invest in a place where there is instability. This one will affect the way you think, the way you project the flow of your business in the near future. So you need to put that into consideration very much. Another thing that you need to put in consideration is the affordability of the financial institutions and the exchange rates of the multi-international currency. And if they are aware how to conduct those types of facilities and the services, very critical because as somebody from diaspora, you will need attention of money exchange. And money exchange is not something that you can do with aggressiveness. It needs professionalism, patience, and a lot of data research. You need to consider this when you're trying to do business in Africa. Six, you need to consider, this one means affordability of the resources or affordability of your commodities. The prices of the commodities varies a lot, and Africans, they don't have that kind of spending power, you think, so they will prefer to consider lower or less costing goods. So in your packaging or in your service delivery policy, you have to consider the service strategy of consumer power you are going to employ and how you are going to move volumes of stocks in order for you to make money. Number seven, you must have settlement mentality. You cannot come to do business in Africa and you have not even known the continent well, even if you are born from here or you relocated, and yet you still have the thing of going back to US or going back to Canada or going back to South Africa or going back to those places where you think there's those European standards. You need to settle yourself. Don't do business and yet you are thinking about Europe. You have to consider settlement mentality as a priority. That one is a good factor. It will take you far and you will grow in one way or the other. I have to keep on mentioning the importance of considering these factors, because it is only if you consider these factors that your business expectations are going to be met. Number eight, you need affordability of residential or the cost of doing business in a good house or rentals. You don't need to do business in a place where it's expensive to pay rent. You are having arrears or you have liabilities that you are not affording. Also, you need to consider the labor input. These things are very essential. Once you have these consideration into the price, everything will arrange itself to consideration and you will definitely win against operation, and inflation itself will be contained. With those few highlights, I would like to say goodbye, and I will log in again to lecture on the importance of rewarding yourself when you're. Reason why they are preferring to do business in Africa, in the Caribbean, is simply because they think Caribbean market is more similar to the Western markets, which I totally disagree, because Caribbean has got its own standards too. You need to consider all these things. They are facts. They are not limitations. They are eye openers. You can hit me on that subscription button and I'll keep on pushing more content so that you can understand how to do business in Africa. Have a good night.